same town my whole entire life, Batesville, Mississippi, born and raised. I was a big surprise to my parents. My mother had severe endometriosis and was told that the 2 children that she already had was going to be all that they had. God threw them a curveball, and here I came. So at the ages of 37 and 45, they started over again. God bless them. They already had a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old. So when I say they started completely all over again, they did. I was very blessed to have wonderful parents that loved me, that took care of me. Every need that I had, they met. Most of my wants. I was a little bit spoiled, I'm not gonna lie. The main thing though that I craved, I guess, and I wanted was affection from them. They were not a very affectionate couple. I know they loved me, I know they cared about me because they took care of me. But as far as showing affection, the hugs, the kisses, the 3 words, I love you, I never heard my father tell me that he loved me, never. My mom was a little bit more affectionate, but still that sent me kind of longing for that, desiring that, wanting that. We were very involved in church. My mother was the godly leader in our family. I can probably count on one hand the times that my daddy set foot in the church and have a few fingers left over. Unfortunately, he was not the godly leader, but my mother definitely was. She was an amazing, amazing godly person. I grew up in church. Church was the only extra activity that I could do other than school. We were not there every time that the church doors were open, but we were very faithful. We definitely went every Sunday. I was a good child growing up. I didn't party, didn't do drugs, didn't drink, anything like that. As I said, church was pretty much the only activity that I could do. I accepted Christ at a very early age in my early teens. I was very active in church. Later on, I rededicated my life as an adult. Just needed to get some things straight, and I did. While I was in school, I had friends. Didn't really go and do a whole lot with them. Basically, I was a home person. I stayed at home. Started dating, was able to date. Met this boy in high school that was 2 years older than myself. Was from a different lifestyle. He was not a Christian. He had not been raised in church. He was literally from the other side of the tracks, from where I lived, from how I was raised and everything. But I saw something in him, and I thought, oh, he's my Prince Charming. I can change him. I can mold him. I can shape him into the person that I want him to be. And he loved me. He showed me the affection that I so desired and I craved. So we started dating. Dated all through high school. Not too terribly long after we had been dating for a while, as most couples do, we had a little disagreement, which quickly accelerated into an argument, and the next thing I knew, he struck me. And I was terrified. I had never even seen a man strike a woman before, let alone me be the one that got struck. I had no one that I could turn to. My siblings were older. My parents were older. I had no one that I could go to. I had no one that I could confide this in. I held it in. I just took it. After the argument, of course, there was I'm sorry, this will never happen again, you just made me mad. I should have known better, but that was just the beginning of the abuse. We dated all through high school. He graduated I still had 2 years. Went on and I graduated. I was told that as soon as I got out of high school, there would be no going to college for you. You are to get a full-time job and we're going to get married. And that's exactly what happened. We got married. 2 years into our marriage, God blessed me with the most beautiful baby girl that He has ever created. And I was so happy because I was a mama. I had someone that I could love. I had someone that I could take care of. And it was a wonderful time for me in my life. I thought things would be better between my husband and myself because he was now a father. No, that wasn't the case. 7 years later, God blessed us with the most amazing and beautiful baby boy. And I thought, okay, well, he's got a daughter and a son now, and he's going to change. And I continued to pray for him. I prayed so hard that God would step into his life and that God would turn him into the husband that I so longed for and the wonderful father that my children desired and needed. The harder that God knocked on that door, the tighter He kept it shut. He just would not allow God in, no matter what. I prayed that prayer for years and years and years. So after praying for years and years for God to soften his heart and to come into his life, I saw that was not going to happen, so I kind of changed my prayer. I continued to pray for him, but I also prayed, God, you didn't put me in this position. I did. And God, I ask that you please open a door for me. And if you will open the door, I will not walk through it. I will run through it and I will slam it shut behind me. But I've got to get out of this marriage. I've got to do something. It's killing me. It's hurting my children. Please help me. The abuse was our whole entire marriage, off and on. There was adultery. He committed adultery so many times. Did I have proof of this? No, but a woman knows in her heart when it's happening, and I could tell, but I did not have proof. So in my prayer, I prayed, God, give me proof. Give me the proof that I need. I don't believe in divorce. I don't want this divorce. I don't want to divorce. But at the same point in time, I can't be a doormat. I can't continue to have be in this abusive situation. 18 years of marriage, I put up with it. And then one day, God gave me the proof. And I'm the type that I have to see it. I have to hold it. I have to know. I have to have a house fall on me, so to speak. And I got that proof one day. Sitting at work, and this gentleman walks in and says, "Are you Mrs. Moore?" And I said, "Yes, I am. How may I help you?" And he said, "I can help you. Your husband and my wife are having an affair, and here's the proof of it." And literally laid things down on my desk. And I was blown away. I was just floored. I couldn't believe it. So I left work. I went home. I confronted him. He admitted. I left there shaken, stunned, upset, angry. I went to my pastor, and he was wonderful. He sat there and counseled with me and talked with me. I had to go pick up my children from school and had to inform them as to what was going on. I immediately filed for divorce. I started those procedures and everything. This rocked on for a couple of weeks. My children and I left our house, and we went and moved in with my mother, who was still alive at the time. She was living in an apartment, so we were very cramped. We went to court on March the 13th of 2000 to kind of settle things so that my children and I could move back into the house, and just kind of get a game plan as far as the divorce and everything. My attorney called me later on and stated that everything went fine and the paperwork was going to be drawn up later on that day, and his secretary would be calling us, and we could come sign the papers. I thought everything was fine. I'm at work because I didn't have to go to court that day. My attorney handled everything. A little while later, I received a phone call from my husband asking, will you take me back? Can we work things out? Really need to talk to you, that type of thing. I did not lie to him. I could not lie to him. I told him no, that the divorce was going to happen. There had been so much deception, so much lies, so many lies told in our marriage. This was how it was going to be. He then informed me told me where he was, and told me that if I did not say that I would take him back, that he was going to kill himself. I could not believe my ears. I was totally stunned. I was shocked. I don't know how, but God gave me the strength to tell him no, and I hung the phone up. Immediately called our pastor and said, this is what he has told me. What do I do? He was not in Batesville at the time, but he was en route back to Batesville, and said as soon as he got to Batesville, he would come be with me at my place of employment. A little while later, I get a phone call stating that he had killed himself, that he had shot himself and had killed himself. I had no idea what to do. The first thing that popped into my mind was my children. My daughter was 16, my son was 9. Batesville is a very small town, and I had to get to them. I knew that they were in school, but I knew that news like this would spread like wildfire, and I had to get to them. I immediately left work, and I went and got my daughter first. I had to be the one to tell them. I had to be there with them. I can remember telling her what had happened, and my son also. I then went and got him and told him. The hardest thing that I've ever had to do in my life was to tell my children that their father had killed himself, and to see the pain and the hurt in their beautiful blue eyes, and know that there was nothing I could do about it. As a parent, you want to kiss their boo-boos, and you want to make everything okay. And most of the time we can. But I couldn't do it this time. There was nothing that I could do but to sit and hold them. That was a very hard time, not only in my life, but in my children's life also. But God was right there. He was right there through every step. I had no idea what I was going to do. It was down to just my salary. I was mother, father, sole breadwinner. I was everything. Lord, how am I going to make these payments? What am I going to do? God spoke to me and said, this is what you're going to do. Number 1, we're going to do this. Number 2, we're going to do this. Number 3, we're going to do this. And I'm kind of an arguer, and I'm hard-headed, I'll admit it. And I'm like, God, are you kidding me? This is not going to work. And now I look back and I'm like, you were talking to God. You were arguing to God. Duh. It's gonna work out. And it did. It worked out beautifully. It really did. Not gonna say it wasn't hard, because it was. It was very, very hard. It was very hard on my children. It was very hard to see my children go through that. Like I said, and not be able to help. The only thing I could do was be there for them and comfort them and tell them that I love them and show them that I love them. And I prayed and prayed and prayed for them. Our pastor shared with us that he had been speaking with my husband, my children's father, and that he had led him to Christ, and which was such a praise and such a burden off of our shoulders, because I know that when I get to heaven, He's going to be there. And my children have that assurance and that reassurance that they know where He is, even though everything happened and it was tragic and it broke their heart. They know where their Father is, and they know that they will see Him again someday. So we had that to sustain us and to hold us together. Years went on, and I did not want to have anything to do with men. The only man that I wanted in my life was my little boy. I didn't need anybody else. Unfortunately, I categorized everybody in the same category as my husband, my deceased husband. But God had something better in store for me. So one day this gentleman from church calls and is wanting to know, was there anything that we needed done throughout the house, any type of repairs or anything that needed done, could he help? I thought that was so sweet and so generous, and I thanked him and I said no, that my children and I were fine. Then he asked me out on a date, and I told him I was not ready. I thanked him. I told him that I was very flattered. That was just not something in the cards for me right then. Not something that I wanted. Not something that I wanted. He asked me if he could call me again, maybe later on. He totally understood, and he respected my wishes. Wanted to know if he could call me again later on. And as hard as I wanted to say no, I said okay. I don't know why, but I did. So a few months later, he calls. Is there anything that you need, anything that the children need? Same song, second verse, would you like to go out with me? No, Can I call on you again later on? I completely understand. Sure, you can call me again, that's no problem. we do this over and over and over. Finally, one night he calls, and instead of me answering the phone, my son answers the phone. And goes running into his sister's room. There's a man on the phone for Mama, and she's talking to him. Do you know anything about this? No, I don't. So I get off the phone and I turn around, and there they're standing. Mom, is there something you need to tell us? No, there's nothing that I need to tell. I told them who he was and what he had asked. And my son immediately says, oh, he's a really cool guy, because he was umpiring where my son played ball at the park there. He's a really cool guy, Mom. You need to call him. Number one, women do not call men. And number two, that's kind of my choice, not yours. But anyway, Sunday at church, I saw him, spoke to him. I invited him over to the house for a cookout later that week, which he came. It's been a permanent fixture ever since. Not only did I fall in love with him, but my children did as well. We married a couple of years later. As of right now, we've been married 15 years. He's my soulmate in every aspect of the world. He is. He tells me when I'm wrong. He praises me when I'm right. If I'm throwing myself a pity party, which I frequently do, he points it out and tells me that I need to straighten up. He's the only one that can do that and get by with it. He not only became the husband that I so desired, but he became the wonderful father that my two children needed. And now he's become a poppy, and he's kind of got the poppy thing down pretty good to our two grandsons. He's just a wonderful, wonderful, godly man. He too went through a divorce, a pretty bad divorce. And we tell each other that we had to go through what we went through so that we would appreciate each other, because this was God's plan all along to bring us together. We laugh, we have wonderful times together. Not to say that there's not hills and valleys that we go through and that we don't go through storms. Right now, as I sit here tonight, I'm personally going through a storm. But God's got me. He's got me in the palm of his hand. He knows how it's going to turn out. I don't, but he does. And I put all of my faith and my trust in Him because I'm a child of His, and He has me. Look at all that He's been right there with me through, that He has helped me get through. I could not have gotten this far as I have without Jesus. He's there for me. He always has been. He always will be. There's times that I've questioned whether He was there or not, but I was the one that was not there. He's always been there with me. He is amazing. He is an amazing, amazing God. And I just give Him all the glory, all the credit, and all the glory, and all the love that He's seen me through all these hard times. I'm Dee White, and His amazing grace is enough.